Welcome to Real Conversations with Patricia Baranovsky-Schneider, the podcast that takes you on a journey around the world to meet some of the most inspiring and accomplished individuals. Discover their stories, uncover invaluable business lessons from their paths to success, and gain exclusive insights on how to apply their strategies to elevate your life and business.
Hello, and welcome to Real Conversations with Patricia. I'm your host, Patty Baranowski-Schneider. Today, I'm joined by Kunal Desai. So welcome, Kunal. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, Patricia. Good afternoon. Thank you for having me on your show.
My pleasure.
So I'm Kunal. I'm one of the co-founders of this technology company called Meal Deals. And what we are is we're a global marketplace that helps connect restaurants and diners.
Wow, that's actually, it's funny because coming from Manhattan, it's, there's diners like on every other block. So this is a huge thing. That's awesome. Now, your journey spans multiple industries and ventures. So what inspired you to leave the corporate world and dive into entrepreneurship? And how has the decision shaped your path?
I actually had a very cool life story. So when I was younger, I was always a good student. And then when I went to university, there was a very clear lack of focus on my part. I didn't have an understanding of what it meant to actually put an effort, because through the early schooling years, the content was simple enough for me to just excel at without effort.
Okay.
And obviously, when you get to university, that doesn't quite hold true if you're not going to be sincere, and just with anything in life.
Right.
So I actually got kicked out of university after 3 years for just having bad grades. Like, when you go on academic probation and you still don't have any improvement in sight.
Right.
And I appreciate the university doing that, because it's for my best interest as well, to be like, hey, don't waste your time and dollars in something when you don't have a commitment towards it.
Right.
And what happened is, when I was forced to leave school, two really wonderful things happened in my life. One was I had the joy of being able to take on some martial arts, which is just, discipline, because I'm a large man. I'm 6'4", 200 pounds.
Wow.
As somebody who's just been a big man his whole life,
Right.
humbleness was not something that was innate in me. There was a lot of ego in terms of how big I am and what I can do. And it's, again, just things that I'd created around my personality. And when you step on a competition mat, you realize how fast everything, all of that goes out the window, because then it comes down to discipline, training, dedication.
Right.
And when I was out of school, a lot of the jobs I had were physical labor jobs. I had a bad attitude. I had no education. I had no value I could provide to anybody. So I was only subject to the kinds of things where my character at that point was okay to do. And doing that I had a 2-year break in my education. And when I did that, I realized that if I don't clean things up instantly, this is pretty much going to be the outlook of the road that I may have to take. Again, I could always evolve, but it was a nice little shock in the system. It was a nice light that was like, okay, there was an urgency that kicked in. Then I got back into McMaster, my alma mater, where I did my undergrad. They let me back in, reinstated me. And the luckiest thing happened was they reset my average to 0. So in 2 years, they gave me 2 years worth of credits, reset my grades to 0. And they're like, welcome back. We'll give you a second chance to finish it.
Okay.
And now when I went back to school, I had a renewed motivation. I graduated summa cum laude. I was the top of my class.
Nice.
I actually had the dean call me into their office to be like, son, what happened to you? Like, the first 3 years you were this, and now the same individual with the same student number is now A+ing it left, right, and center. And I just said, man, my state of mind wasn't there.
Right.
And then when I finished MAC, I went to grad school, got a master's in financial economics at the U of T, and Rotman School of Management. I worked on Bay Street for a while. And when I was working, so I've had some pretty good success at this point. I've trained myself over a few years I've been working hard, understanding things. And even at work, I had very good grades. At work, I had very good reviews from all of my peers. And I was also in a good spot where my family doesn't need any direct dependence from me in terms of they don't expect any financial assistance or anything like that. So given where my experiences had evolved to, some of these great reviews, I was like, hey, why don't I take a chance and try something on my own accord? Given how young I was when I started this, I was in my late 20s.
Okay.
So that's really what got me to jump into entrepreneurship. I had a little bit of money saved up. I knew that I had the backing of education. I'd fallen into the love of actually doing the work and willing to do everything that's necessary, because that's how you excel, really, right? Like a grade on a test is a 95 or a 90. That only happens on a 2-hour test. It's not you don't see the 200 hours of studying that goes into for that 2-hour test.
Right.
And I learned to fall in love with the 200-hour process, where the test didn't matter anymore. The test was just a formality for proceeding through the next outcome.
Right.
And that's really what got me into entrepreneurship. I'm like, hey, you know what? I think I've got the nice skills. I had the luxury of not having any dependence and having some capital saved up and just a willingness to jump into it.
Wow, that's actually pretty impressive, though. I mean, most people who, they start out and, they kind of have that young mindset and they get into all trouble. They get discouraged and they don't want to go back and pursue it. They just feel like, oh, school's a waste, I'm stupid, whatever, and they don't pursue it. So that was actually pretty cool that you had that little wake-up call.
And it's one of the greatest gifts in life, right? That if
Yeah.
I hadn't been kicked out, I don't think I would have had that same urgency. And what was really nice was the first cohort that I went to, because again, I went to school, I got kicked out, took a 2-year hiatus. So in this 5-year period, I effectively had 2 graduating classmates. And I always joke, the cool part of it was, as a student, a part of your tuition funds go towards future projects. I got to enjoy the future projects that contributed towards early on.
There you go, early on. And then went back and doubled it.
And
That's
a lot of my friends who we had started university together with the first round, of course, they had some, fun. They had good time as well. So they had a colorful transcript.
Right.
But their transcripts showed all the grades. I was the only one who got a chance to graduate summa cum laude. So they were almost low-key jealous that I got a clean slate to be like, okay, young man, we'll give you 2 years worth of credits and a clean slate,
awesome.
just 4 years, and whatever this does, that's going to be your final score. So it's a nice little cheat that I got out of it.
They actually saw the potential, though, so that's pretty cool. Now tell us, Meal Deals app, it's an innovative approach to restaurant advertising. So what was the aha moment that led you to its creation? And how does that differ from advertising solutions in the industry?
That's a great question. One of the things that we did before Meal Deals was I ran a marketing company with my partner, Mario. He's the co-founder of Meal Deals. And we ran this company for about 8 years. And we did everything where most of our clients were healthcare, technology companies. We had banks, telecoms, financial institutions. So a really nice, robust corporate portfolio. And we also worked with some family offices and a lot of restaurants. And we realized over the 7 years just how expensive marketing had gotten and the costs, the way they've been evolving, and also just the saturation in the marketplace in terms of how much content there is. And not the best thing to say, but all these companies, their revenue generation model is from ads. They don't have direct incentive to optimize your ad delivery, because the more dollars you spend on ads, the more money they make. And if you're going to get leads, then it's okay. But like as the cost per leads went from $1 to $5 to $10 to $40 to $50, right? As more and more competitors enter the marketplace, it's just not a sustainable operation the way we were seeing it because again, our clients themselves would complain over the years just to be like, what happened, guys? We were so good at the beginning. Now things are evolving a little bit. Technology changes, humans, behavior and preference relation changes, the way they engage with things changes. And now if you look at how traditional digital marketing platforms are structured, there's a lot of content fatigue on them. It's overwhelming how many companies are advertising. And now you have meta level ads. Before you would have digital companies advertising their services to saying, hey, if you want some marketing, click here. Now you have companies selling to digital marketing agencies saying, you want clients, click here. Then you have companies selling to those guys. Are you a coach for a consulting agency? Click here to get those leads. So it just shows you that, okay, that it's not working, because why would you start having all these meta layers of funnels in place for the same end user client? Because if you were able to acquire them, why would you want to give away a bulk hold of the earnings if it was an easy acquisition? Just a time constraint and everything. And then the pandemic comes along. Uber happens, like delivery apps all of a sudden just explode, given that it was wonderful because they allowed restaurants to still engage with their customer while we had some draconian lockdowns in various parts of the world. So they're really wonderful in their being. But when the pandemic ended, some of those effects, those behaviors of people had really changed from just interacting and engaging and ordering from digital media, or really absorbing information through cell phones or tablets or other portable media. Now, while it's great, it's extremely unsustainable for restaurants, because when you look at the restaurant industry and each of them, on average, if a restaurant makes, I don't think there's too many restaurants that make over 20% profit margin, just the nature of the industry. And for a company that's a conduit to take 20 to 30% right off the top, That's just not sustainable. Like, how can you take a more egregious amount of profit
Right.
from a company than what they would actually earn while maintaining all the risk? Because none of the risk is transferred to these third-party apps. All the risk
Right.
is still on the
Company.
on the
Right.
restaurant that's selling the product. Couple that with social media marketing, how people absorb information. Now you have other challenges such as timeliness. A lot of platforms,
Right.
when I log on, when you open up your social media channel or anything, the message you see on it may not be current, because oftentimes we're shown things that are slightly antiquated or just
Right.
trending, but may not be relevant. Where a lot of your followers are may not be your customer base.
Right.
And restaurants are location-driven businesses. They're physical establishments. Most of their sales and customers are people that live and work in their neighborhood. There was nothing out there that was just a pure play on advertising for restaurants
Mhm.
that allowed them to showcase everything in real time to any of
Right.
their users. So my partner, Mario, an incredible programmer, and he's the chief technical officer, chief technology officer. I always mix up the T and I call it technical, sometimes technology. But our CTO, Mario Russo, he is such an incredible programmer. And then, we figured, we're like, okay, if we make this platform where we build a marketplace, where if you log on, it picks up where you are, and then shows you all the local food and drink specials that restaurants want to advertise. Because restaurants have so much on-site messaging in the form of
Right.
window posters, sandwich board
Right.
signs. They're announcing things on their social channels. But do I necessarily know what's available for lunch on a Tuesday in my neighborhood? What is it like, sitting in our office, or you don't know that. And then another thing is, from a consumption standpoint, I eat out a lot. And most of us have the good fortune of, what do I want to eat today?
Mhm.
And when you're eating out all the time, if you want to eat healthy, it adds up. And as I alluded to earlier, I'm a large man, so I need a lot of calories. So I would eat meals that would be $20, $30, $40 for a meal. And I'm going, this is not sustainable either. Plus, I'm
Right.
spending time finding it. So
Right.
this was also built from necessity, where I'm like, if I can go on and if I can find out what's close to me,
Right.
just show me a quick snapshot. Hey, this is for a Tuesday lunch.
Right.
I have 4 or 5 options, allows me to make a decision really quickly, support a local restaurant. I get to go walk to the restaurant, because usually
Right.
they're a few hundred meters away from wherever you are, right? You get some fresh air.
Right.
And it's a win-win-win, because the restaurant gets an in-person transaction, which is the best quality transaction.
Mhm.
I don't want to be the conduit or intermediary taking and processing the transaction on behalf of them. They have a POS system. They have all of that. Why would I want to collect the customer's money, right?
Right.
Plus, the potential to upsell is much higher. If you're at a restaurant, you may buy a pop, you may buy a dessert, or you may get
Right.
something else. Whereas when you order it at home, oftentimes it's just the bare minimum.
Right.
And delivery is wonderful. It's convenient. It has its place. There's great moments for it. But if you actually look at how a lot of people engage with these third-party apps, and this is something that we did as a part of a market research, almost all folks that go on third-party apps, first thing they do is they look for BOGO deals or offers or
Right.
because again, a lot of these offers are promoted on these third-party apps, unknown to the end user, the diner, that the restaurant pays an extremely high cost for those promotions. I've had some of our clients show me their third-party payment dashboards where their sales would be $50,000 for the week, and they would only get $25,000 deposited in their bank account.
Wow.
And the reason why, psychologically, the reason why this works is because they're not taking money up front, right? So you're getting sales, they're keeping your kitchen busy, they're keeping your staff busy, you see the counter go up, everything is wonderful, right? So it feels like, hey, I'm getting value. But then when you look at the net incoming proceeds, there's such a huge deviation from what you expected. And there's nothing wrong with it. Again, if a restaurant chooses to do it, that's great. No one's held hostage over here. But it's just not sustainable. That's all.
Right.
So we're going, listen, if a restaurant wants to offer an amazing deal, why not make it so that you redeem it walking in, where at least they get to keep 100% of the revenue.
Right.
And finally, when you engage with people, or if you go into a restaurant, the food is just nicer. Outside of pizza, I don't know too many things that I want to eat 20 minutes later.
Right. Yeah.
At that point, I might as well eat at home or heat something up at home.
Right.
So, those are a few of the reasons where we realize, okay, you know what, this is something where there is a void. And we're a global company, so it's not that we're just in one place. We're in 53 countries. We have 1.1 million active users, and just under 52,000 restaurants. And Patricia, this is in just over 9 months. We officially launched April 1st, 2024. So we're super excited for
That's
where Field
awesome.
is headed.
Well, you definitely found a need, and that's the whole thing. It's like, I always say, like in marketing, every company thinks I'm the greatest in the whole wide world. Everybody should just buy from me. It's not about you, it's about your customer. And unless you're, helping a pain point or filling a void, you're just one of many. And that's awesome. You found a need for something and you fill it. Because like I said, I know, I always think about that too, like local stores, what about like a Trivago sort of thing or Expedia where if I'm looking for food, who's having a special today? Who's having this? Tell me, who has the greatest deal out of the nearest 5 places? That might determine what I'm eating tonight. I mean, there's so much that they could do, but
It does. And like we can search this information online, but there's a very high physical cost of search. There's some platforms that are inundated with ads, pop-ups, spamware. So we wanted to make something where we're like, okay, how can we help everyone? It's free for the user. They don't have to log in. We don't track it. There's no download. There's no sign up because we don't want you to buy from us. We want you to buy in the way that the restaurant directs you to. We kept it open source so that the restaurant can determine what is best for their model.
Right.
And the reason why we kept it that way, because from our research and experience and conversations, even if you have two franchisees that are the same exact store, if they're in different geographical regions, they will have a different economic model. A company that operates in a food court of a central business office is going to have a completely different style than something that's slightly in a neighborhood where that's a little bit more urban or more residential, right? They're going to have a completely different style of marketing preferences.
Right.
So even within the same exact brand that serves the same food, based on where they're located, they tend to vary. So our platform is designed to allow the restaurant owner, manager, like whoever they want, their marketing company, because everybody's an ally. We're not replacing anything. Our goal is not to make anyone obsolete. It's to empower the restaurant owner to really showcase and use their messaging. And when we sign up our partners, we tell them that we can guarantee you one thing: people are going to go on meal deals. Whether or not they see you on meal deals is going to be a function of how actively you use it. If you use it and you keep your messaging current, you will be seen. And if you get so many repetitions online, it's only a matter of time before somebody interacts with you, right? And then what we can also do is this way, by being an aggregator, it becomes much easier for us to promote other restaurants that are on our platform, drive traffic to our platform and aggregate. And now it becomes a useful place where people don't go on there to kill time. Nobody's taking meal deals timeouts from their day for their mental well-being.
Right.
Just go on it.
Darn.
And it shows you. And then we have filters for afternoon, lunch, breakfast, date night, dinner, birthday deals. So like, let's say if it's your birthday, you can literally go around the world on your birthday, just have meal deals open, and it'll show you what all the cool restaurants are just giving away for birthday. Because a lot of them do it. They just don't have a physical place to announce and manage these things. With a very easy to use interface. And that was our main thing. And then we wanted to make it affordable. So our tagline actually is that meal deals is safe for restaurants. It's simple, it's affordable, it's fast, and it's easy. And even when we were building that, we had to distinguish between simple and easy. Because simple is something that is a matter of, in our view, practice. When you're skilled at something, it becomes simple. So for you to record a show is quote unquote simple because you have the expertise to do it. It's not easy because there's a lot of work that goes into it. Ease is when there's not a very high learning curve or the existing intelligence and the intuition of how we engage and function with society easily flows into that. So that was a really critical part where we're like, okay, how can we make this safe? It's got to be simple so anyone can pick it up and do it. It's got to be affordable. It costs less than $1 a day. It's fast. We have play and pause buttons. So literally with touches on their phone, a restaurant can toggle a notice on or off on meal deals. And it's easy because there's no learning curve. Because this is supposed to be a scalable platform where restaurants sign up autonomously. It's designed so that once they sign up, they shouldn't have any friction in following, okay, what is it that I have to do here? Everything is extremely self-explanatory. Again, that's our intention. And our goal is to keep evolving and improving and, getting feedback from our restaurant partners because our job is to serve our customers. And how can we make it better and more efficient for them?
That's actually pretty awesome. I mean, it's, it is tricky, like, especially if you just move to a new neighborhood. I have no clue what's around. And, your neighbors like even me, there's probably 4 places that I go to. There's probably hundreds of them all around me that I just never went to. So having a better way than just asking a neighbor is definitely the way to go.
And then we took reviews out of the equation because I'm like, listen, there's enough platforms that do reviews. I don't need to
Right.
have anyone chime in their opinion. This
Right.
is just strictly an advertising conduit.
Right.
And for us, the greatest thing has been the reception, the number of restaurant owners that have called us within a couple of months of launch.
Right.
We launched April 2024. As early as May and June, I had people telling me, hey, Kunal, we've had people walk and show meal deals on their phone. And to me, that is one of the greatest joys because knowing that we could deliver instant success to the restaurants,
Right.
even though this was designed to be a continuous long-run marketing initiative for them.
Right. That's awesome. Now, the restaurant industry, it's notoriously challenging. So with a high failure rate, what are some key insights or strategies you developed to help restaurant owners succeed?
It is a very difficult industry. And the main reason for that, Patricia, is there's so many variables that are out of the control of a restaurant owner's hand. And there's a running joke in the industry that your best friend is your fridge and electrician guy because the number of fridge failures and those are critical things because you have so much inventory that if your cooling system or your refrigeration breaks down, it's a high priority thing because you could potentially use thousands of dollars.
Right.
There's a lot of dynamicism and unfavorable shocks that are just built into the nature of the thing. We're not even looking at external shocks like the economy, like the pandemic or any economic activity that may deviate user behavior from how they engage. But that being said, one of the things I always share with all our friends and with anyone in marketing, right? Anyone who does marketing, all we can do is get you people to your door, whether it's me or an ad or anything else. After that, all the magic is on
you.
The owner. The service, the food, the value that you provide. And the value doesn't have to be in quantity. The value could be in the experience. Some places have a very fancy ambiance and they charge for the ambiance. It provides exceptional value for the moment, right? That is what brings customers back. And if you focus on that, then it's going to be very hard or much harder to not succeed. And another thing is I used to work as a server in a restaurant for a few years, all through my last couple of years of undergrad and a little bit of my master's. And the other secret sauce, I think, is cleanliness. Like the restaurant I worked at, they would wash the kitchen every single night and they were full every single night. So I think, and that's something that I've noticed also, that the kitchens that tend to be very organized, very clean, very meticulous, they're the ones that generally tend to have the most long-run success. And if you want to just compare that, look at any, and this is something that there's tons of stuff online. Look at the kitchen of any Michelin star restaurant. It looks like an operations room. Like you'll never see their stainless steel tables with even one smear of anything, right? So they take really good pride in just those core fundamental things. And I think if you can focus on that and be like, hey, listen, the key thing is food, making sure the customer gets value, I'm nice. People are going to come back, right? We all need to eat. If we have the good fortune, we eat 2 to 3 times a day. And that, I think, is something where, unfortunately, because of how much consistent effort it requires, because like I said, cleaning the kitchen every night is not easy, but you got to do it. Doing all the prep work all the time is not easy, but you have to do it. Things like that, I think, are, in the long run, tend to be the differentiators. And then sometimes you have a lot of franchise, and that's why they have franchise systems where they give you a little bit more of a cookie cutter approach at managing things that's optimized for success. But the challenge with that is people forget that still requires some marketing effort and initiatives because you're going to have competitors nearby. So oftentimes, whether it's a FSR, which is a full service restaurant, or a QSR, which is a quick service restaurant, they'll have a successful restaurant because of the brand equity that they're purchasing into, but they won't do the necessary local store marketing initiatives needed in order to aggressively promote themselves. Or they do things a lot more haphazard. They tend to have uncoordinated strategies. And as someone in the PR and marketing realm with a lifetime of experience, you understand, you've seen firsthand enough nightmares where few things where people don't let strategies actually take effect. I'm equally guilty of this. There's times where I'm looking at our results and I'm like, why isn't this happening faster? And then I just laugh at myself, like things take time, right? So I think that's another thing too, where if restaurants were a little bit more consistent at doing something for a longer period of time rather than constantly flipping, and then to not chase trends. Everybody's trying to chase trends. The problem with trends is chasing trends is expensive and it's short-lived and it has limited effectiveness. What you want is something a lot more sustainable, and things that are sustainable are Value never goes out of style.
Right.
Ease of use, a good user experience. Those are the things that keep bringing people back to your establishment.
Right. No, that's 100% because it's the same. Like I don't eat out every single day, but if I do go to a place and you pick up the silverware and it's kind of not the cleanest, or the bread is hard, it wasn't like fresh bread, or the food was okay, but the service was, I'm not going back, or I'm going back once in a blue moon. But you could have the greatest food in the whole wide world, but you have to really do the ambiance, I guess. Just have a clean place, have good food, fresh food, and you're going to get people back once people know about it, which is where you're coming. So I agree with you 100%. Now
And then
tell us.
also for the larger companies, they have the access to robust royalty and marketing department. Like, from the
Right.
fees received, they have marketing departments, the franchises like Chick-fil-A, Church's Chicken,
Right.
all these guys. A small mom and pop shop or family-owned restaurant just doesn't have the means to compete with that, especially given that a lot of family-owned restaurants, the owners themselves are intimately involved with the daily operations,
Right.
either in the capacity of a maitre d' and front of house manager, or as executive chef or in a similar capacity, right? So their time is so occupied. And we're like, okay, what can we do that allows Main Street, High Street, if you're in Europe,
Right.
to get on there, right? Because
Right.
that's really the lifeline and the pulse of the economy. And these are the kind of people that typically lose out when corporations that have an exorbitant amount of money can flex their thing. Like if you look at all these ads, remember when Samsung started buying all these subways to portray them?
Right.
Samsung can do that because they're Samsung.
Of
You think
course.
any other place can, you know what I mean? They can't do things like that. And again,
Right.
I'm obviously using a very extreme example, but even the other day in Toronto, Skip the Dishes, they rebranded to Skip, was doing a campaign where they were just handing out food. They must have handed out in their post, I forget exactly what they said, but I think it was 500 or more than 500 servings of food was given out.
Wow.
If you're making $25,000 a week off a
Yeah,
restaurant,
that's
you
nothing. You could afford it.
how can a small place give it out? And they're not giving you food so you get the food from the restaurant. They're giving you food so you don't use DoorDash or Uber Eats. Like,
Yeah.
right? So it's that kind of, when you understand what the marketing's objective is, it's not the benefit of the restaurant. It's the benefit of their organization kind of deal.
Yeah.
And it's okay. There's nothing wrong with it. But at the same time, how can we give the average Main Street establishment an equal ground to play on? So with meal deals, what we've done is our platform is agnostic in that it shows you results based on your distance.
Okay.
So you cannot cheat the system.
Right.
So if we have 5 paying customers in a neighborhood, the person I see first will be the person that is closest to me, and then migrating outwards in terms of further they are. Because again, the goal is let me show people close to you. And by doing that, we keep it neutral. Just because you have some more money, because let's say if you're a small restaurant that sells burritos versus a fancy restaurant, given that our price is the same for everyone, a fancy steakhouse for them, 99 cents a day is nothing. For a small restaurant, it could be more. Why would I want to give them the option to have more power, right? Like as a user, we're still going to decide independently what we want anyways. You can blast all the ads, you can show me all the messaging you want, but we're so unique in our own individual being that at that moment, what you're feeling, what you want is going to be driven by your own personal preference. Not so much by the ranking of where something is shown.
That's awesome. I like that you keep them, you're keeping it neutral and fair, which is great because it is true. You see so many people with online, and advertising is super expensive. But if you have the budget, you're on every magazine, every pop-up ad, blah, blah, blah. So it is unfair to the mom and pops. That's actually really cool that you're keeping it neutral and fair. Now, I guess speaking of all that, like technology plays a huge role in the dining experience. So how do you envision the future of dining, and what role does Meal Deals app play in that evolution?
I hope that the future of dining evolves back to people supporting restaurants more. In bigger cities, I mean, New York, I'm in Toronto. The biggest challenges a lot of these restaurants face is the rents. There's disproportionately high rent. So I think that is something that I don't know where that's going to go in the long run. I know a lot of low rises are now being replaced by high rises, and then they allocate lower level space for commercial use. That commercial use, the rents from there go into the condominiums maintenance budget and all of those. So they've made it slightly more in a way where, okay, it can be more sustainable, but there's still so much uncertainty surrounding how that rent portion is going to play out. But I do hope that, a big part of the generation that during the pandemic just got normalized to not going to restaurants understands that at the end of the day, we're still social creatures and it's nice to go out. Plus, so many of us in big cities live in relatively small homes and I'm being nice, like most of us in the downtown core are in shoeboxes, right? Like,
in a shack, yeah. A little
so
shack hole in the wall.
right? So it's nice to go out to just enjoy and, support local.
Right.
And in the long run, man, we see, like, as I said, we're already in 53 countries. Our goal is so that it doesn't
That's
matter
awesome.
where you are, whether you're a sales rep or you're a truck driver, you're on vacation, or you're just like, hey, where do I want to eat? Our goal is that eventually people just quickly hit up meal deals just to see what local restaurants have for them.
Right.
And please engage directly with the restaurant so that all the benefits are accrued by them.
Right.
You get that personalized experience. Because when I go into the restaurant and I meet the owner or the person preparing my food, I smile at them, you say hello, they make your food. There's a nice bit of energy and love that goes into it. That itself transforms the experience that one has versus just something that's delivered to you in a box.
Yeah. That you have no idea, like especially if it's becoming a big thing with the Uber drivers where, Uber Eats, I've heard a lot of people, I know I had more fries in there, they're just picking and choosing what they want, and it's kind of like, you want to have it in your hand. You want to, and it is true. But like some places I go to, been going there for so long, they know who you are. They're always like, "Hey, Patty," it's like, oh, it's better than just going through a fast food place where they have no clue who you are. They're just throwing stuff across the counter. It's like, yeah, go take it. You want that personalized touch, which is really cool.
And even Uber drivers, I'm glad you brought that up because, even them, talking to a lot of them, because again, when we were doing our research, we spoke to every person involved in the vertical that engages with food, which is all of humanity, effectively, because we all eat. Now these platforms, when you're an Uber driver and when you get an order pushed to your phone, the first thing it shows you is how much of a tip you're going to receive. And based on that prompt, you can determine if you want to accept the order or not. Then the highest paying tips go to the drivers and the delivery guys who are the most active on those platforms, right? Because again, they have an incentive to promote their best employees because they don't want them, because they know that if I'm an Uber Eats delivery driver, nothing is stopping me from having Dash open or Skip open. So in order to promote loyalty to one, they try to funnel me. And if I'm a good driver, they'll funnel me the highest tipped orders. So what that's creating now is that a lot of times your order doesn't even get delivered for hours. The number of restaurants where the order just sits at the kitchen because nobody wants to touch it is ridiculous. If you go to offices, the number of offices, and it happens to our office all the time, where courier guy comes in, drops off a package of food at reception, and 6 hours later, the food is still there because whoever ordered it has either forgotten about it or whatever it is. And it's okay, right? And then they start a claim saying, hey, it wasn't received. And one of our employees, actually, he used to work for a credit cards complaint department. He was the head of the call center there. And he told me that when you want to challenge a transaction and make a claim saying, hey, this was an unfair transaction, in order for, so let's say if I got a charge on my credit card saying Uber was $25. And I said, Uber, I called up my credit card saying, I didn't order this food. This was a false charge. It costs Uber $20 to dispute that charge. And they do that because there's a cost involved in going through the processing. You can imagine how many billions of transactions take place daily. As a result, there's a high cost to search and fine-tune the one branch of the tree. That's what. Now, if Uber's got a $25 order, are they going to pay $20 to dispute the validity of that order?
It's not worth it, yeah.
And then if it's food, there's no way to prove certain things. If you say, hey, I didn't receive anything, how do you fight that? Like, how do you fight defective food? Right? There's just no way. They're so overwhelmingly just driven to say, hey, you know what? The average order size is $20-$30 anyways. If somebody wants to say, hey, I don't want to do this, we'll just give you the money back. And then what they do is they don't charge the restaurant owner the fees, but the food cost is still the loss of the restaurant owner. Right? So that burger or dinner or whatever he put out in that bag, packaging, all that loss is taken by the restaurant owner. Uber just doesn't charge the fees. Uber doesn't reimburse them for the food. They just don't, the transaction is nullified. So there's no financial consequences, but the financial consequence is a physical transfer of a loss of food for the restaurant. And now imagine if you have people that are selectively getting the best tips and the best orders. Given how big the gig economy is, half of those gig economy guys don't have deliveries to do. And I don't know how it is in Manhattan, but in Toronto, it's really bad because when you go around the downtown core and you go during the dead zones, it's sad to see like they congregate in bunches. Again, they're just working hard. Like, a lot of these folks, this is their only mean of income. So I completely empathize with what they're doing. But it's very sad to see 15, 20 drivers sitting together, all colluded, just waiting for that 7 o'clock thing to come on, or, or when it's raining, all of a sudden everyone is out there so they're only using them. So now they're starting to use these guys in just extreme circumstances, given some of these other vagaries that are.
Right. Jeez. I'll tell you, every time you think your job is bad, it's like, oh, if you hear stuff like this, like it could be worse.
And that's why, it creates a lot of understanding and empathy in us as well as a business. And okay, we cannot be another business that's going to be gouging these folks who already have so many challenges. What can we do to support them? And we all need to eat. And if these wonderful folks start leaving, we're not going to have the good fortune of these food options around us, right? And who loses in that? All of us do.
Wow, it's unfortunate. Now tell us, as someone who lived and worked in various countries, how's your global perspective influence your approach to entrepreneurship and innovation?
I'm so blessed, Patricia. The global experiences allowed me to understand just how similar we are as human beings. We all have, it's funny, in the modern day, actually, we all look the same as well because we all wear jeans and a t-shirt. So back in the day, we still had some cultural garbs that would lead to some geographical distinction amongst countries. Now that is even lost, right? It is the best things I got out of it. One was how similar all of us are. All big cities, all small towns, they're all the same. And how much they all work together and how well they all need to be in cahoots with each other to make everything work. And then the externality of the luxuries of life has afforded me is I'm fluent in 5 languages.
Wow.
English, French, Spanish, Hindi, and Gujarati. Read, write, speak at a business level. Portuguese, I can read at a basic level. I have a master's in financial economics, so numbers are something that I'm okay at. Statistics, good at accounting, legal work through my experience in banking and reading that. So I've been very lucky where all of these different life experiences have allowed me the good privilege of just accumulating a lot of human capital. And then I've been very grateful that life has given me the awareness of the gifts that I've been able to get and accumulate from wonderful people helping me my entire life, that allows me to pay it forward. Because honestly, when I reflect on everything I do, I'm just the product of all the wonderful people who've come along, who've believed in me and have poured all their infinite wisdom into me. That has allowed me to, because we all have access to information. It's just, I'm so lucky where these people have shared it to me. And I've been lucky enough to take their wonderful life experience and lessons and personalize them to my being.
Pretty impressive. And wow, how many languages? You're a jack of all trades. I mean, speaking of, you're a serial entrepreneur with experience in tech, marketing, and hospitality.
It's all in the same domain, right? Like it's still tech and marketing. It's tech marketing in the hospitality industry. So all I've done is, as I've evolved, it's been the same work, but just more and more fine-tuned with more layers of complexity while making it easier for the end user.
It's kind of good because, like you said, they do kind of intertwine. So, but most people do one, or you're just doing it all. That's awesome.
It's in a very small, we're doing it for a very small concentrated space, right? So our industry base and our product is extremely it's got that pinhole size sort of focus. But
it's
because
good that you know it all, because like we were saying with having a conversation with someone earlier. If you have say for example, marketing, I could go to school for marketing, learn it the whole bit, start my own company. No one ever taught me how to run a business. So I don't know the legal, so there's a lot of pieces that intertwine for a company, but you at least have a sense of each aspect that you have to pay attention to. Most people just do one and they're like, I have no idea. Like, no one told me how to have a server. What do I do? Do I have to, all this stuff. But you actually have a little bit of everything in there. So that's going to help you succeed really good.
And you know what? I'm lucky because what I have is a wonderful team in place. My partner, Mario, I say this all the time on every call. I'm honestly, one of the greatest gifts God has given me is introducing the two of us and allowing us to work together in harmony for so long.
Right.
So I don't know so much. There's so much that I don't know. Luckily, I've been lucky enough to surround myself with incredible individuals and a team that so strong in everything that they do. And what I had to do at my level, given what I do, I had to learn to communicate effectively with somebody who's very specialized and good at what they do, while also being able to communicate on the front end with a layperson. So I figured, I'm like, if I can make myself a bridge where I can still relay these complex things to the average person, understand what they need, and then take that understanding and distill it in a way where my technical guy is going to be happy going, hey, you know what? Thank you for telling me this is what I have to do versus giving me a rundown and not giving that clarity. And that has just been a also process of life's work, evolving. I like reading. And then when I went back to school, what it really taught me was I spent so much time in the library studying, because you're not going back to school just to get kicked out again. So I fell in love with the process of doing work. And I have very limited skills. I'm good penmanship. I do a lot of things, but that's all I could really do. If you had me work at a construction site, I'd quit by lunch. You know, if you had me do certain other things, I probably wouldn't be the most optimal, you know, deliverable or employee in that. So there's a lot of things that I've just had the good fortune through a lot of sacrifices, being able to develop myself in a way where I'm like, okay, how can I really leverage this part of my being and then create a system? And it wasn't always this easy, right? In the beginning, you can imagine there must have been a lot of challenges in getting to that stage. But then when you hit a critical mass, then you start appreciating what you have and how you can leverage that.
I think that's awesome. Now tell us, Meal Deals app, it aims to make technology more accessible for restaurants. So what challenges have you faced bridging the gap between technology and small business adaptation?
Recognition, awareness. We are a marketplace. A marketplace has two components, the sellers and the buyers. If there's not enough sellers, the buyers have no interest in visiting that marketplace. And if there's not enough buyers, why would a seller want to rent a booth in said marketplace? So as a new company that's just launching, that was the hardest challenge we had, was people going, who is Meal Deals, or what is Meal Deals? I've never heard of them. And it's true. And then our name is so common. Meal and deals are two of the most commonplace words, that when you search Meal Deals, there's so much robust search engine optimized content in the universe surrounding Meal Deals that for me to show up on the first page, it'll take about 6 more months. We're already ranked on the first page on Google for a lot of searches, but to be unequivocally at the top is going to be a little bit of time. So that awareness factor was the hardest part. We were lucky enough in that right from the get-go, we were able to have restaurants believe in the vision, because it's what we're trying to do. And that's been our saving grace, is that, you know, all the restaurants that have understood what we're trying to do, they come on and they've seen value. And that has allowed us to grow, because the challenge with us is, with any marketplace, the first couple of restaurants are difficult to get on. Once I have a couple of restaurants and I'm advertising them, all of a sudden their neighbors are like, what is this? Because they know the order, right? They know the restaurant. So if you're seeing them advertise or using another platform, it piques interest into, okay, what is this?
What's my competition doing?
So that's been really helpful in people understanding and growing. When we launched in April in 2024, our traffic was 5,500 active users. 9 months and week in, we're at 1.1 million active users. So a literal 200.
Must be doing something right.
I think so, right? And the fact that we have restaurants signing up, we have restaurants signed up in Australia and Sri Lanka.
Wow.
All across Canada. We have some in the United States. So the fact that despite having a limited, you know, not limited, but being very reserved or conservative in our marketing approach, because we just want to be, we don't want to be shamelessly just spending our dollars buying ads everywhere. We're very lucky to have this kind of growth and adoption. And then our repeat user rate is 80%. That's really been, that was something that we hit, Patricia, almost 3 months in. So about first month of Meal Deals, repeat rate was about 35-40%, which is already incredibly high for our, you know, 1 month in to have somebody repeat a platform means you're doing something right. Month number 2, we got to about 60%. Month number 3, 70, and then almost from month 4 on, we've been hovering at close to 80% repeat users.
Wow.
And that to me has been like one of the greatest telltale signs of, okay, I know the product delivers value, because why would people want to go back on it? If it didn't? And I don't expect people to use Meal Deals every single time, all the time, because again, sometimes if you're feeling something, you're like, I really want Coney fries. You're going to get Coney
Right.
fries. You're like, hey, I want a halal box. You're
Right.
going to get a halal box, right? You're not like, that's just the way it is.
Right.
But there's a lot of times when you can't decide what you want, or you're like, okay, you know what? I'm in between paydays, or
Right.
life happens. You have a valuable tool and a resource that you can use.
That's actually amazing though, because it's you know, people could pay for advertisement in like the local newspaper, but who's reading newspapers anymore? Even, you know, online doesn't mean people are close to you. So it's almost like I know some people were doing geofencing and things like that, which could be cool, but I don't know if it's more restaurant per se. You know, this is obviously, I mean, the fact that you're getting this many people, it's obviously a need for it that you're filling big time. So, I mean, more people just need to know about this.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate all your kind words. You know, it's something we think
No,
we've built
I'm
something nice.
serious.
Our
Yeah.
results are telling us that what we're doing is okay. Our restaurant
Right.
partners are happy with everything. So far, you know, we seem to be trending in the right direction.
I mean, you've grown exponent. Most people don't grow this much in 5 years. You've done it in a couple months. I mean, this is just insane.
Dude, we're just lucky. Honestly, we're a very hardworking team. And then what's cool is that all of us are here to serve the company. None of us do this for our own personal reason.
Right.
We're wildly devotional to our organization, especially Mark, like myself. And nothing is about us. It's all about the organization. And the organization has one single objective. How can it serve its customers, our restaurants, and our users? At the end of the day, as stewards, all our role is just to how do we serve our customers?
Right.
And that's what we really have to shine at every single day, so that the rest of our team sees us doing every single thing for their benefit.
Right.
So it just becomes a natural part of our DNA. This is what the company does.
Right. And that's going to help you keep going stronger and stronger at this point. People see that. Yeah. Now, you're passionate about self-improvement and learning. So how has this mindset contributed to your success, and what practices do you recommend for others?
As I mentioned, you know, I got kicked out of school. That was really a big moment for me in terms of understanding the value of hard work, discipline, being sincere, showing up every day. Because that's really what life really is there's nothing hard. When I went back to school and I aced it, it's only because I went to class all the time.
Yeah.
I didn't do anything different. You know, your test is literally all your lectures. A few questions from all your lectures are effectively what your exam is. So if you went to your lectures, you could potentially ace all your exams. So that, and then martial arts taught me just the value of physical health, movement, and well-being. And then I was lucky enough where I have a Great Dane, and when I got my dog in 2016, I was so unhealthy that I had to wear a knee brace to walk my pup. And I was in my early 30s, so I'm going, you know, there's something wrong over here. If I have a nice dog, I'm driving a nice car, dressed well, but I can't walk. So, and then I had the good fortune of running into a good friend of mine who I went to McMaster with, and he had become a chiropractic doctor and a physiotherapist, personal trainer. He just really loved it. He actually got a PhD in mathematics and then went to chiropractor school because he just loved human movement and anatomy so much. So those are the kind of people that I really love working with as well, when they just do it for the passion. They don't do it because they're not a mercenary. They're doing it because that's what their sort of goal is, right? And Dr. Greg Bell, shout out to Dr. Greg Bell. He was instrumental in helping me understand just how beautiful the human body can be if you respect it, take care of it. I was very lucky to fall into love with yoga. As somebody who always had gym memberships, I was never really into the gym lifestyle. I just don't see the point of lifting weights. Again, personally, I just got bored. It was nothing against it. And then even with yoga, the good fortune, Patricia, is I used to do yoga at this fancy gym in Toronto. I used to live in Yorkville, which is a nice part of the city. And at this gym, nobody would go to practice yoga because they typically go to yoga studios, right? Nobody's going to a traditional gym to do a yoga class, just generally speaking.
Yeah.
Because this was a fancier establishment, they had very good quality teachers. So oftentimes when I started my yoga journey, I would get semi-private instructions for no added cost. And this one teacher, Karen Brar, she was so wonderful. I don't think I would have been where I'm today without her help and understanding, because I was so immobile. I was so limited in my range of motion that this teacher really taught me how to evolve my practice for my body so I can still reap the benefits of what the practice is trying to deliver. And just the sheer good luck of having somebody this wonderful care this much about you. And I think, a lot of that started, this whole mindset shift started when I went back to school. Because all of this stems from my genuine willingness to care about something. When I would go to classes, I would sit in the front row, I would care about it. I remember the first time when I was like, wow, I can't believe this works. We got our test back. My professor hands me my test without calling out my name. I'm like, how does this guy know who I am, right? Because
made a name for yourself, apparently.
It's such a wonderful thing. All that, and the only thing I did was I showed up every day. That's all I did. And then by showing up every day, the people that take notice that. They notice that behavior, right? I remember one time I'm sharing some of these funny stories because they apply to what it is that really the gist of the message is, right? I remember one time towards the end of my undergrad, I had 4 midterms in one semester. And I'm talking to one of my professors, he was a younger guy, and I'm like, James, I have 4 exams this week. Can I just not write your exam, please? And he's like, okay, let me see your test schedule. I showed him my test schedule, literally just on a 1-to-1 verbal. He's like, yeah, don't worry, don't write my exam. I'll recalibrate your grades with everything else. Because again, I was already getting an A+. I was already excelling in this class.
Right.
But do you really want me to write another basic test 3 weeks in to test my understanding of the material when I have other more important things to fry? And that's when I realized that if you actually care, people will take an active interest. I had open door policy. I started being a TA for all my teachers. When I got into my master's and I spoke to all my master's professors, the only reason they accepted me, because I got into the hardest program you could get into in Toronto. And the only reason they accepted me is because my reference letters were so overwhelmingly supportive that they're like, have to take this kid, do not miss out on this candidate. Like, don't look at his transcript, because my transcript had D's, F's, every color grade on there, right? Because my first few years were a nightmare. But it's what they said, and to develop that relationship where I didn't have to take permission, I could just knock on it. We're almost equal. I'm working at the bank. I remember one of my mentors at the bank, she organizes a day out with somebody in a different area of the bank so I could shadow and learn about capital markets operations. And I emailed them and I'm like, hey, Mr. So-and-so. And she's like, Kunal, you don't have to call him Mr. You can address him by first name. You're at the same level. Right? So that kind of sort of recognition from people that you hold in high esteem really helps you understand that, okay, what you're doing is right, and continue doing that. So even when I went to yoga, even when I was working out with Greg, it was for my benefit. So I cared so much about there. So they would love training me because they're like, you actually are more nerdy about your own body. Because a lot of times, like you said, a lot of trainers, they're counting reps, they're doing things like that, and it's not as thing. Whereas me, I'm like, hey, how's my form? Am I squeezing? All the things they're telling me, I'm actively incorporating them into because I know what they're giving me is great advice for my benefit. So that keenness, when you're naturally, and I didn't become keen to get help. I was keen because I wanted to be better. So that keenness really helped a lot of wonderful teachers and mentors. Just be like, you know what, here's somebody who likes, and then it's commonplace in our world too. When you come across someone who's very interested or is porous, demonstrates the willingness to improve and absorb, you love to share information and stuff, right? Like it's in our being. And if you've accumulated human capital, I think it's your ultimate responsibility to share every single bit of it so that all those teachings get passed on for the betterment of everyone else. The yoga part was a really critical, big life changer. And I remember one time in the yoga class, after I finished, I just started crying, like for no reason, just shedding all life's weights and layers. And I became a convert. And then, so it's been almost 8 years now of a lot of meditation, yoga. I just like the movement challenge it gives me. And then what I'm looking for is a healthy, active lifestyle, good movement, things like that would help me enjoy and allow me to serve my purpose better, right? And that's another thing with yoga is that, and why Meal Deal was also born is through yoga, one of the things I realized was what my purpose in life was. And my purpose in life, I realized, is to help people. It's when I'm the most joyful, where my being is the most calm, where I'm shining the most, and everything else that I do, nowhere close to the same being that I feel. And then God gave me the added magical gift of giving me this tool of meal deals that allows me to devote my life to it. So the 2 biggest gifts I could have got is that clarity of my purpose, and then a chariot or ship or some vessel to fulfill that purpose with, right? So it becomes a very lovely balancing act. There's a lot of bad days. I'm not saying there's a lot of choppy waters in the sea,
But you know what? If you have that passion to do it, you'll tread through any type of waters just to complete your goal, which
It makes
is,
it easy. And then,
yeah,
through having done a little bit of entrepreneurship, having had a lot of experiences, I've had burnout, I've had a lot of funny things happen. So
right.
yeah,
That's awesome. I mean, because it is true. When you see somebody who's passionate about and loves what they're doing, I mean, it shows, and that's probably why everybody keeps coming back because they're like, it's not like you're doing it for a paycheck. You're doing it because you want to help people. And that will shine through everything you're doing, which is amazing.
thank you.
So now tell us, what advice would you give to aspiring entrepreneurs who are looking to break into competitive industries like technology or hospitality?
I have a lot of grit and determination. It is
Okay.
challenging. Have an understanding of why you're doing something, just following something for the reason of trends is
Mhm.
going to lead to some form of difficulties in a very short term as far as evolving it. There's got to be some scalability things built into the model. And then just fundamentally knowing why you're doing the product, understanding your market, having a well-developed reason for what value you provide to the people.
Right.
And you have to be willing to serve your customers. If your focus is always serving your customers in whatever you do, you'll have long run success. And we always tell our clients that, we only win when you win, because
Mhm.
if you're the one that's paying me the money. So I want you to win. If you're around for 10 years and if
Right.
you're winning for 10 years, then you'll retain our services for 10 years.
Right.
It's not about churn. It's not about, let me just get a client, get some money. And then if they leave, I'll get another one. That's
Right.
not something that we built our marketing company or meal deals on. And that's where I think Mario and I are very lucky in working together. We both share those same fundamental values
Yeah.
in going. Getting a client is one of the hardest things to do. After that, if you've embedded your trust in me to do what you contracted me or hired me to do,
Mm.
why would I not deliver the services? Because unless I'm over promising what I can deliver,
Yep.
or I'm not doing the work, there's no other reason why the deliverables aren't being met.
No, I agree with you 100% because I've seen a lot of people in the industries who, they kind of just check off a box. Yeah, I could do A, B, and C, and then they just don't do anything. I always say the same thing. My client success is my success. If I'm not helping you succeed, well, that's a failure on me too, because I'm going to lose you as a client. And I'm proud when I see somebody succeed because I'm like, I helped make that happen. How awesome is this? I mean, you have to have that passion. So I agree 100%.
And
Now,
Patricia, how joyful it is to walk into restaurants that are my customers. When I walk in, the owners or the managers, they smile and receive me and they're like, hello, how's it going? Right.
right,
The number of times I get free food when I'm just out visiting, like, oh, come grab
right,
lunch with us or this or that. That joy is so wonderful that it's
right,
like, why would I want to lose that love and effort of the people that are,
right,
that I'm working so hard for?
right. And the fact that they appreciate you is just golden right there. Nice.
I
No,
find that's a great way to grow organically, right? Because now I'm growing because somebody else supports me. So if I ask you
right,
for a reference, you're not going to say anything, hey, you know what, this company didn't do this or didn't do
right,
that, right? So all we can do is try. At the end of the day, there's a lot of, like I said, what we do is we can get people to your door.
right,
After that, it's in your hands,
right.
right? And if you're not going to use meal deals, don't expect people to see you on meal deals. It's just
Yeah,
common sense, right?
yeah,
So short of those two constraints, we have to do everything in our power to make sure that, hey, we're working hard for the restaurant. And at
right,
that point, you know what? Some of it, everyone's going to perceive results and outcomes differently. And
yeah,
we can't do much, but we just know that we feel content knowing that we've done everything in our power without cutting corners or shirking for any of our clients and acting in
right.
their best interest.
Yeah, you get the foot in the door. What they do after that, like you say, is on them. But yeah, you got them there. That's awesome. Now, anything else you want to talk about that we didn't touch on yet?
You know what? This has been such a wonderful conversation. Thank you so much. And
Oh,
I
my
love the
pleasure.
questions, the way you asked, and it was a really nice way to sort of just weave my fun, random life story into how
No, I
various
love
little
this.
components of the fun
You
things
have
I've done
definitely an
come
interesting
together.
story. I love the college one, but
That
now
was
how
my
come?
favorite. We had the most fun during that one, but
No, but I mean, it makes you a real person, because so many people, like I said, I always hate when people judge a book by its cover. People will look at me and think they have me all figured out. You have no clue anything about me. You don't know what I've gone through. You don't know what I had to go through to get to where I'm at. So letting people know I'm a real person. I'm not like when I was started in work, I started as a receptionist. I had to work my way up the corporate ladder, work hard to get there. And other people graduated college and they're up here. Meanwhile, I'm still down here trying to get I have the experience. I've been through the grunt. I worked 18-hour days. I've worked weekends. I had blood, sweat, and tears to get there. So I can sympathize with everybody. It's not. So it's good to let people know I'm just as real as I don't put myself above anybody. I'm just as real as the receptionist there. We're all part of this whole big team, so I get it.
That's one beautiful thing about failure, So I'm of Indian origin, and culturally, failure is viewed very negatively in a lot of communities, and it's okay. There's no good or bad.
Right.
But all I am is I'm just a product of continuous failure, really, where all of this comes from. Because, and again, when I fail, I don't view it as a failure. I view it as, hey, here's a series of outcomes. The outcomes were suboptimal or whatever it is. You take learning from it and you move on. Right? Because you're not going to sit there, do something which is negative and continue down that path. That's when it becomes a little bit more foolish.
Right.
So, don't embrace, and all those failures create so much empathy in you. All those struggles create so much empathy in you, right? Because we're all the same. Whether you're in one country or the other, we all do the same thing. We all eat the food. If you're hungry, your neighbor will still give you a plate of food. What that plate of food looks like will vary based on which part of the world you're in.
Right.
They're still all going to do the same thing, right? Fundamentally, we're all the same. And that's a really lovely luxury that life has given me, where, through the various experiences and situations I put myself in, I've had wonderful teachers in all capacities that have been kind enough to share these lessons with me.
Yeah, and that you appreciate it and give back is beautiful. Nice. So now, how could people get a hold of you or learn about meal deals and all that good stuff?
Thank you. So it's very simple. We built meal deals where you access the entire company right through a simple website. So you open any browser and you just type in mealdeals.app, or if you just search meal deals app, we're the #1 search hit. And that's it. And you're using it. You allow your location or enter an address of where you want to go. And voila, you have all the local announcements from restaurants that are close to you. And then to get in touch with us, ma'am, they can either call us. Our company number is 647-720-7766, or they can email us at hello@mealdeals.app, and somebody from our team would be excited to hear feedback, any comments, or anything that we can do to help make the product better. I would love to have your audience chime in on that as well.
Nice. And anybody who has local restaurants, diners, all that good stuff that aren't on there, tell them who they are.
So to all our restaurant partners, we are a marketplace, and by having you on there, the richness of you is really what makes a marketplace even more successful. So we urge you, please, take a leap of faith in us. Give us a chance for 1 year. Try us out. I'm confident that the value you will see in building up your community, getting fuller tables, having your staff have better experiences, will hopefully help you be lifelong customers of Meal Deals. And right through the Meal Deals portal, there's a button there that says add your restaurant or register. We've made it very easy for restaurants to contact us. So right through the front end, there's a couple identifiers that allow you to get in touch with us or sign up your restaurant to Meal Deals.
Nice. And the fact that you've grown this much in just a couple of months tells you just how good this is. So awesome. Well, thank you again for being on the show. Again, that was Kunal Desai. So thanks for listening to Real Conversations with Patricia. Never miss an episode by subscribing to the channel. So thank you again.
Thank you for listening to Real Conversations with Patricia, talking with some of the most brilliant minds on their journey to success and their recommended strategies. Please leave your feedback and visit pristineadvisors.com to get the latest and greatest business advisement on the planet. Feel free to let me know your thoughts, suggestions, and anything else you'd like me to cover. Together, we can make success happen for all.